welcome in to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard De La Cruz, who's not here today, and Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Bonjour.
It is Monday, August 23rd, 2021. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, where we post videos. I just posted my video on Returnal, about 9 minutes. Got a lot of the thoughts out of my head that I needed to get out of my head, and moving on to other things now. So yeah, we're recording Monday nights. So if you're listening, if you see this on Wednesday and you're somewhat confused, or Tuesday, or any day that's not Friday morning or whatever, we've rescheduled when we record podcasts. So we are now doing it Monday nights from now on.
Because somebody got a job.
Yeah, which we don't have to discuss that. But until the foreseeable future, we'll be doing it. We'll be recording the podcast on Monday nights. Anyway, how are you doing?
Good. This is a strange way to start the podcast now. How are you doing?
Usually it's like me and Richard. We're like the sports radio duo, but now it's...
And I'm the lonely engineer sitting in the corner.
You're the disgruntled Starstrip engineer. I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. We do have a lot of news to get into. People make games.
Yes, they do.
Released a great YouTube video about Roblox and exploitation and stuff, and so we'll play a clip from that once we get into it, but we'll start off with what we've been playing. So Connor, what playing?
I got a chance to play a little bit of the Back for Blood beta. Yes. Okay. I only played the versus mode. I didn't play the campaign because I was going to wait to play with you, and then we never played.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I only really wanted to play. No, I'm joking. And then I've been playing Cityscaper. I think that's what it's called. Yes,
the Townscaper,
yes.
The minimalist builder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
And Hand of Fate 2.
Hand of Fate 2. Okay,
yes.
Cool. So what do you think of, I think it's Townscaper.
Townscaper, yeah.
What do you think of that?
Super chill. Like, it is just zen all around.
It's just a town builder.
Yep.
You don't manage any economy. You just place
click
buildings.
And it places the building, yep.
You change their colors. And it's all like you're building like a seaside town. So it's all brick and stone. So bridges and little water walkways and
arches
stuff like
over the water, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of, that is
very calming.
Yeah, very calming game. Very fun too. I've built a few towns in there myself. Even a few like skyscraper sections where it's like looks totally out of place.
Yeah.
These gigantic
metropolis building floating on an island.
Yeah, made out of stone of all things. Okay, neat. So did you like Back for Blood?
Back for Blood is, we'll say, interesting.
Okay.
The versus mode seems pretty one-sided.
On which side?
I mean, it's set up to where the infected will eventually win.
Okay.
But it's just a matter of how long the survivors or the humans last, because when you do the versus mode, it's not like Left 4 Dead where you're going through a map completing objectives. You're in an area, and that area is eventually going to shrink down, and it's just how long you can last as the humans, and then that gives the other team a benchmark to where they have to beat.
Wait, so it's not structured the same way Left 4 Dead is?
At least not this version of the beta. I don't know if there's going to be like multiple versus modes, but this one, it was just a shrinking arena that the humans had to survive in.
Oh, that's kind of lame.
The
single player, the co-op campaign was Left 4 Dead. I mean, it has its differences. It's a little bit of, there's like a roguelite thing in there because you have these card packs, and then every time you start a new game, you get new card packs. So your characters changed a little bit during each run. But you get to a safe house, you go A to B, point A to point B, relatively linear. And then if you survive, you get to a safe house, and then the next section of the game takes you from point A to point B between two safe houses. And there are special zombies that spawn or whatever. So I was under the impression that the multiplayer would be basically
Left 4 Dead's multiplayer.
Left 4 Dead, but
it's entirely different. You do get the card packs though, which I don't know. The card packs seem more focused towards the campaign than the versus mode. Because in the versus mode, you are always on the defensive, as the humans at least, and you don't get you get different abilities with being the different special zombies, but I'll get into that in a minute. But as a survivor, the card packs, unless you've specifically built card packs for versus mode, they're either highly situational or entirely useless unless it's damage output or health for yourself.
Okay.
Because you have the card packs that like benefit the team, and they're like they get 10% more stamina or something, like 10 or plus 5 health on the team. Those ones help a little bit, but the ones that are like you heal them up 20% quicker or something like that doesn't really affect the gameplay, because yes, you can go revive your downed allies, but you have 4 special zombies that aren't AI, that, you know, have advanced thinking because they're people on the other end, that if someone goes down, they're going to be camping that downed person, making sure that they stay down or are pulled out into the outside of the playable arena, so they're just constantly taking damage. So if you go out to save them, you're also constantly taking damage.
Okay.
And then to the point of the special zombies, there seems to be, you get a wide variety of special zombies. There's 3 types, but then there's 4 in each type, and only 2 were unlocked. For me, at least, playing the game. I don't know if playing more you could unlock them, but it seems like they're, from what I saw playing in the beta, they are more akin, or not more akin, they are better suited at different phases of the game.
Okay.
So you have like the guy that has like this big massive arm that does these big wide sweeps. That's more of an early or late gameplay, because it's just damage output, and if you can hit them and knock them out of the play arena, then they just start taking the damage. The one that spits and, you know, sticks people in place, that's good for when the arena starts to shrink and they're on the edges. You just lock them out of the arena because it pushes them back a little bit. And then the one that vomits and detonates is best at the end of the game, because you detonate and it throws them back, and then it pushes them out of the playable arena, so they're running back, taking damage.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so really you see just 4 dudes with these massive arms at the start, in the middle spitters, and at the end dudes with massive arms and the ones that explode.
Oh, so you can play multiple of the same zombie in the multiplayer.
You can have, because
in Left 4 Dead you were assigned randomly a zombie, and then you had to coordinate with your teammates when you were going to ambush the survivors.
Yes.
So the reason we're comparing it to Left 4 Dead is because
this is made by Left 4 Dead.
It's made by the same, or at least some of the same developers.
Some of the team that
made it, and there's obviously a lot of connections between the 2 games. But in this one, you can sort of just pick.
Yeah.
I can see how that could be easy to take advantage of.
Oh, absolutely. And you get mutation points as you hurt the survivors, which allows you to upgrade the individual special zombie types or the AI zombies. Okay. You can upgrade them to where it's mostly walkers to like ones that run, the ones that are like infected, like they're the special infected normal walking zombies.
Sure.
That like detonate, like it's weird. And you could upgrade their different stats and everything. But the versus mode seems highly shifted towards the zombies, because there wasn't a time where I had a full team of zombies versus a full team of survivors that the round lasted more than 3 minutes. There's just not enough for the humans to be able to do on the maps to survive, unless you find unless you're playing against inexperienced zombie players and you just hole up in an area and just wait out the storm and are lucky enough to have it close in on you. Then you'll last 5 minutes maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, it's slated towards being the zombie and just destroying the survivors.
Okay. So let's see. I picked up the Ghost of Tsushima Iki Island expansion, which has been pretty cool so far. It introduces some new things to the game. The island itself isn't that huge. I haven't done a lot of like the island story mode, but I've already explored almost half of it. Removed the fog of war or whatever. And in Ghost of Tsushima's map, you don't see the entire map. You have to run to it, and then you like see it expand.
Yeah.
So I picked up the Iki Island expansion, and it's about the story is it's not super spoilery, but and I don't remember where in the original game this gets introduced, but a driving force in Jin's character is his father's death, right?
Yeah,
because he feels guilty about it because it happened to his dad when he was young and he was like in his adolescent years, and his dad asked him to help, and Jin was hiding, and someone came up and killed his father, right? A minor spoiler because you learn about that pretty early on in the main game, but that is what provides the backbone to the narrative in Iki Island, because Iki Island was the island that Jin's father and Jin sailed to, and they say that the samurai invaded to quell a rebel uprising, right? So Jin on Tsushima is a hero. He's someone who's liked. He's someone who's revered. He goes to Iki Island. The Mongols are there, and they have things going on about them that are new, but the population that is there, they're not huge fans of Jin either. So he's put in a bit of a different context, and I so far it's fleshing it out in a really interesting way. Jin gets flashbacks about things, but these flashbacks are always triggered by something in the environment. So he has these moments of post-traumatic stress where he sees like, what's an example? You come upon one village that had been attacked by Mongols, and there's a body that's draped over with like just some kind of fabric, and Jin has a flashback to when he and his father were in a village, and they had attacked the village, right? And so there's guilt, there's remorse, and I think it feels as though as the story progresses, it's going to be about how he reconciles his guilt with failing his father in his mind, along with his guilt of what he was a part of, his guilt with the samurai invasion, right? Because he was a part of that. He was super young, and he was under control of these like mountainous samurai, right? So he was, but he has a lot of guilt there, and he has to reconcile all that, and that's going to be really interesting. I've always been someone who really liked Ghost of Tsushima's story and everything. A lot of people, when it came out, said that the story wasn't super original and stuff, and I don't know, I haven't watched a ton of Kurosawa films. I've seen some, but not all of them, nor have I seen a ton of samurai films. Yeah. So it may be that a lot of the different stories and set pieces are just ripped from movies, and that may be true. But when I played through the game, I thought the story was one of the game's better assets, and hopefully Iki Island continues that. The PS5 upgrades are pretty cool. Probably one of the cooler things is when Jin plays his flute, the controller feels like a flute is reverberating in your hands, and it even sort of matches the tone, which is cool as hell. Problem that I don't like, and this is gonna make me sound like #entitled-gamer, whatever. The haptic feedback on the controller fades away when you do certain things, and I hate it. I hate it so much because when you're riding a horse and you go through dirt and then you go on a wooden bridge, you can feel the differences, right? The wooden bridge feels like you're on a hollow structure that's got nothing under it, and you hit the dirt and the dirt feels softer and more plowy. That's not a word, but you know what you can sort of imagine. And after like 10 seconds riding the horse, it fades away. And I assume it may be because that they don't want your controller just, running out of batteries in 10 minutes. But I really wish there was some way to keep that haptic feedback coming, because it's really freaking cool. And it's really noticeable. If you ride your horse through a stone roadway or up stone stairs, it feels like you're on stone. The footprints are really, or the footsteps are really impactful, as opposed to the sand or dirt where it's a little more passive. So that's really neat, but it fades away. So I really want that to change. I won't sit here and say, why can't you just toggle it off and on? Because, I don't know how difficult that is, or if that's even possible or whatever, but it's disappointing regardless. And I don't think it's a unreasonable thing to be disappointed in, because that's one of the cooler things with the PS5 controller. That's the whole point, is the haptic feedback. So I would love that to be incorporated more. The pulling of the bowstring and stuff like that, it's just it's just a little bit of pressure. It's not anything super intense or tiring. Like, I've been firing tons of arrows, and it's not super difficult. And there was one other thing, but anyway, I spent too much time on it already. Anyway, very good, very fun, and it looks beautiful. So I'm excited to get into it more, and I'm taking my time with it because I really enjoy Ghost. The other game, so I'm just gonna say a game. It's called Blood Spear. I'm not gonna say what it's about, or what it is really. It was a student project, and they released it on Steam. It's 30 minutes. They call it a demo, but they've said that they are a group of students. It was their graduation project. They're moving on to other things, so they're not making a game. It's really freaking cool, and it's called Blood Spear. So that's all I'm going to say. Go play Blood Spear. It's free, 30 minutes. It's not that big of a download, and I recommend it for a quick, really cool 30-minute experience. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And then I've been playing Squad. I've gotten back into Squad.
Ooh, fun.
I just can't shake Squad. It is too good. Even when Squad is horrible, it's still good. And I wish Richard were here, because last week Richard was talking about Apex Legends and how you have to sort of learn the game in Apex Legends and stuff like that. And that's true for a lot of, Overwatch. You have to learn what heroes do what, and what heroes are counters to other heroes, and etc. There's that learning curve in Squad, and it's when you reach the point where I'm at, like, I'm not an expert or anything, but when you reach the point where I've played enough where I understand like some of the nuances of it, it's awesome being able to take advantage of some of that stuff. Being able to make decisions based off incomplete information, right? So we were playing a game, and our team there's like an organic front line that appeared on the map, right?
Yeah.
So we could see where the majority of the firefight, the battle, was taking place. And our team really wasn't advancing. So the game was sort of in a stalemate. So I had a friend who was flying a helicopter. I was like, okay, we're going to take a chance here. What we're going to do, we're going to get in this helicopter. We're going to flank way around the map, and we're going to land, and we're going to place a spawn point near the enemy's objective above them. So we're attacking from the south, the team. The plan is ride this helicopter, sort of stealth it on the edge of the map, land to the north of the objective, right? Or, to the north, and then go back down from the north. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So while our team's fighting way down in the south,
Operation Overlord type thing.
Yeah, we're secret attack from the north of the spawn point. So we did this, and it worked. And we got to the objective. We found an enemy spawn point. We disabled the enemy spawn point. We took the objective. And what happens in Squad, because objectives are such a huge deal, like, you win or lose the game based on objectives. Because when you take them, you get a huge points boost and stuff like that. If you lose them, you lose tickets, whatever. It's very similar to like Battlefield's Conquest.
Yeah.
But of course, the biggest difference in Squad is spawn timers are 30 seconds. Takes one shot to kill you. If you don't have enough spawns set up, it could take you forever to get to an objective. So there's all kinds of logistic considerations. But anyway, so when you are losing an objective, you have to spend more resources to send people to go defend that, which means you can't sustain an attack, right? So there's the saying, the best offense is a good defense or whatever. Or the best defense is a good offense. So if you can start taking an objective, the enemy doesn't know how many people are there, but it forces them to divert resources to hold their objective, right? So if they're launching some huge attack, some huge push on one of your objectives, a good way is just to get like one or two guys, just somebody in the enemy objective, and then all of a sudden that forces the enemy team to act differently. And Squad is like that same tactic works in Battlefield, but the difference between Battlefield and Squad is everything is accentuated in Squad because it takes longer. Firefights happen at a greater distance. Every time a player gets hit, it's more impactful because you don't, it's a 50-on-50 match, but it's spread out across these massive maps. So if you're in a firefight, chances are you're not in a firefight that includes more than 12 or 13 people.
Yeah.
So it's like if you get a squad wipe or something, that's a huge deal. But anyway, so I've been itching to get back into Squad because I love it so much, and it's such a well done game. And I can't think of things that I dislike about the game. The toughest thing is that if you have a squad that's not playing the objective, just like that sucks in Battlefield, it's worse in Squad because it's basically you have, maybe some decent percentage of your team is just not doing anything. Like kills do not matter, right? If you win a game based on kills, it's a whole bunch, and you have to be splitting the objectives half and half, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of the maps have
asymmetrical or uneven
objective, asymmetrical and uneven, right? Which means you need to capture that central objective so that you have more, so that your kills are more impactful, exactly. So if you have squads that aren't attacking the objective, it's just a waste of time. And I think one of the toughest things for video games teach you that if you see someone that's not on your team, you have to go get them, right? You got to go get them. Like you're locked in with that person. In Halo, it's like you're locked in with this person. Call of Duty, that's your tunnel vision all of a sudden. But one of the things that's so important to Squad is breaking contact, right? It's like if you see a bad guy, you can chase after him, shoot him. But if you're not near an objective, or if you're heading to an objective and they're heading some direction that's meaningless, it's not worth going and getting them because it's going to take you time. You may lose the firefight. You'll get stuck and you'll be pinned down or something like that. So it's like breaking contact is super important. And I think people get caught up in trying to destroy every single bad guy they see. Or, if they get shot from a distance, it's like they have to go engage where they took that shot from. When in reality, it's like you gotta, all of your movement and spawn points and assaults have to be done through the prism of how does this affect the objective, right? How does this impact my team's push for the objective? Which is really fun when you get into it and when you have a few squads working together. It's great. I think that's all I want to say about Squad. Blood Spear. Go play it on Steam. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Question for you about Squad.
Okay.
Do you need me to drive a Logi truck?
It always helps. It always helps in Squad, especially a Logi driver that'll just drive by enemy tanks like it's
smoking and joking,
like it's just no big deal.
Another day in the office.
Exactly. No, but that's the thing. Like, like all Logi driving is just driving a truck, right?
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah, but if you know where to park and if you take chances and stuff like that, I mean, that can make. We played a game.
Drive up a steep hill slowly just to get into the objective so you can unload resources.
Exactly, but that changes entire games. There was a game we played together where we took an objective and our spawn point was destroyed. and our closest spawn point was super far away. So if we died, the enemy was just going to flood and take the objective back. So you just drove a truck, slammed it into a wall near the objective, and there was enough points that you could just unload the construction material, and we built another spawn point, and that's how you win squad, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you lost the truck, which cost us some points, but us keeping the objective is a net positive. Yeah. And so it's a lot of basic game mechanics, right? Take objectives, shoot bad guys if you have to. But the size of the maps, the open-endedness of it all, the vehicles and how you want to use the vehicles and stuff like that, with you having to place spawn points in different areas, with you having to manage your squad and place rally points and stuff like that.
With ammo boxes not being infinite.
Yeah, you have to manage
finite resources.
Finite. So you have to manage your squad's ammo. Supply lines are another thing, right? If you notice in the game, because these maps are so huge, if you are pushing way across the map, and we could name any bajillion wars in history, right? Germany's push into Russia. Napoleon's push into Russia, right?
Any push into Russia.
Like you have long supply lines, and that gets straining, right? Because you have to make it really far to drop off supplies, and that makes it more difficult. So the further you push into the map, because after your main base, ammo, spawn points, all that has to be built by you.
Yeah.
The harder that becomes, because you're farther from where your resources start, and there's no supply lines. You have to construct everything, right? And what the plus side is, if you're being pushed back into your main base,
you have those resources built up.
Resources, exactly. So there's that little give and take there. That is sort of a simulation of real war logistics, I guess. Yeah. As you push further and further into a country or whatever, you have to set up supply lines and whatnot. And it's a totally real strategy where if you have a super long supply line, there are players who will
go snip it.
Yeah, they'll go sneak and they'll place mines on roads or whatever. And if you lose a truck that's full of ammo being delivered somewhere, which has happened to you.
Disgusting. Vile humans.
That truck is gone for like 5 minutes. Those resources are gone. Meanwhile, the ammo is being used up, and your team has to figure out another way to get ammo or to get resources. But anyway, yeah, very good. And I'll always take a Logi driver. I'll always take a Logi driver.
We want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this episode. They have been silently supporting us since the very beginning, and we felt it was time to give them some love. The like and share buttons have been at our side since episode 1 of the podcast. They can be found just beneath this episode. Please give them a click, it helps us greatly. If you're feeling lucky, click the bell icon to enter for a notification anytime we post new content. You may be surprised by what you get.
So as I referenced at the beginning of the video, or at the beginning of the podcast, People Makes Games, who we've talked about before the podcast, YouTube channel, you should subscribe, hit the bell icon for them too, because they do great stuff, great work. Made a video about how Roblox is exploiting young game developers. So some background, Roblox is a sort of sandbox game. You're able to make your own, they call them experiences because they can't legally call them games for certain reasons. But it's a sandbox, so you can create your own stuff. I think Roblox has its own tools that you can use, sort of like Forge is sort of a loose comparison with Halo. And you build your own games, and then people can play these games or whatever, right? The video is great. It goes through how Roblox encourages players to make, again, experiences, but they're games, and to help monetize them. You get a cut of the money that you make in Roblox off of your games, right? So, but when you get paid in Robux, which is the end game currency. So Roblox is the game, Robux, is the end game currency. If you want to withdraw Robux and convert it into real money, the minimum amount to make a withdrawal is 100,000 Robux, which costs $1,000 to buy, but the transfer rate back to the real world is $350, right? So if you're taking out 100,000 Robux, that's 350 for you, right? But if you want to purchase 100,000 Robux, it's $1,000 end game, so it's a different transfer rate. Quentin Smith, who is one of the video's creators and its host, compares that system to an old historical / mining script where companies would pay its workers in currency that was only good at company stores and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the exchange rate was incredibly low. This was outlawed in the United States. I think it was either 1939 or 1938. I have a clip I'm going to play from the video right now.
And if you go to education.roblox.com, which contains lesson plans for educators, one of the lessons is how to earn money in Roblox. Or, in the words of one 11-year-old I interviewed,
I saw other big games, I saw other developers getting money in a way that looked easy.
let's take a moment to put a human face on all of this. Was it harder than you expected to make Robux with your levels?
That is definitely a big yes.
This is Emil. Emil is 11, and he got his parents to send him to a special summer camp where he could learn to code for Roblox, and then he made a game all by himself. And the game flopped, and he ended up sounding like a disenchanted 30-year-old veteran in an 11-year-old's body.
Even though Roblox says to encourage you to actually make games, the likelihood of you making a successful game is basically zero. You always compete with the people that have lots of money.
So it's not something that is new necessarily in the tech world, right? A lot of people work on making comparisons with YouTube, which I think is somewhat viable. But Roblox encourages this, right? But you're not going to make a whole lot of money off of it. And it reminds me of, and it does remind me of YouTube in a lot of ways, but one of the ways is that YouTube wants a specific type of video, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's sort of tough to define, but certain types of things play better on YouTube, right? More marketable, whatever. And I would assume that's the same thing with
Roblox.
With Roblox, right? Is that certain types of things work better. And then if that's the case, then that means what you're making has to be contoured
Towards the algorithm.
fitting whatever that is. Yeah. So in YouTube's case, it's algorithm, whatever. And in Roblox's case, I don't know, because there's probably a bunch of other factors, but you would assume there's some kind of standard by which things need to be met, right? Demographically, you're looking at young children, so it has to be something that plays sort of in that market, whatever. I have a lot of thoughts about this, and it's one of those really confusing economies where it's like, how does this work? You don't really know. But it's not. But at the same time, it's confusing. But at the same time, it's really reminiscent of something like YouTube, right? Where you can make money off of your videos. In the game Roblox, you can exchange Robux, the currency, right? So you can buy other players' items with the in-game currency and stuff like that. And so you're getting cuts for all this. But again, to transfer that money into real world money, you're getting a fraction of the stuff that you exchange in the game. So it's not a 1-to-1 split. Yeah, but I have a lot of thoughts. You go ahead if you have anything you want to say off the top.
I mean, just surface level. Yeah, it's kind of exploitative.
Yeah.
Make our game better, and we'll maybe pay you.
I do think that it's exploitative.
Yeah.
Right? I also think that, because I can imagine people in my head saying, well, no one said that you're going to be a millionaire doing this, or what did you expect doing this, or stuff. Devil's advocate type stuff, right? And on one hand, I understand that. On the other hand, Roblox went on to the public, its IPO or whatever happened recently, and it was valued at like $40 billion. So if your company is valued at $40 billion, which the video points out is the worth of like 7 Ubisofts, do you really need to do an exchange rate where 100,000 Robux comes out to $350 outside of the game, right? So it's like, where you're not going to be, Roblox is going to be making more money, just like YouTube's going to be making more money, and that's fine. But is your company in a position where you could redistribute
the wealth?
Yes, exactly. And I don't think that's an unreasonable critique, especially when we're talking about 11-year-olds. And let me say this, that 11-year-old in the video may be the smartest person on the planet Earth, because when I was 11, I couldn't string together a sentence without referencing like Star Wars. And this kid's like talking about economics. You see, like when you're a small developer, there's other people with more resources, understanding the marketplace. You know, at 11 years old, and
in our defense, when we were 11, there wasn't a thing like this for us to, you know, start making video games and make money on.
Sure,
we had sticks and rocks, and we had to share sticks.
Yes. But it sucks to see. It sucks to see that happening to a kid, especially someone that's passionate, right? Because that's, you want that cultivated. If you play games, if you enjoy gaming, you should want that to be cultivated and not taken advantage of. And I don't mean to break this out to like a gigantic, bigger discussion.
Your tinfoil hat.
Well, not necessarily, but I sometimes. All right, I don't want to be the old man who says, you know, things today are worse than they were 20 years ago, because so much of the time that's just not true.
Yeah.
And in certain places in life, you know, old people, curmudgeons complaining about kids today is just curmudgeons being curmudgeons, right? There's not a whole lot of substance there. But when I think about the generation today and how, you know, if you're 10 years old and you were born in 2011, right, you've grown up in a time when game companies want you to play their game. They need to keep you engaged. Retention is important. Microtransactions are important. Weapon skins and player skins are more important than, I think, more substantial experiences. And when I think about when I was 10 years old, you know, around that age, the games were different. Halo was big. KOTOR was big, right? You had these big the games that were popular or that were successful were games that we still remember today as being some of the best games ever made, right? So if you're 10 today, when you're my age, when you're almost, you know, 20 years from now, when they're almost 30, when they look back on this time in their life and the first games that they played, how will they look back on these experiences? Will they have the same type of nostalgia, the same type of appreciation for the stuff that they played? When they look back, and like a lot of Fortnite is just meaningless cosmetic bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm being old when I say that, you know?
No, because
like a lot of it is just cosmetic bullshit.
That's like the leading factor to Fortnite's success and their financial success is skins.
Yeah, and we're being somewhat fishy. It's microtransactions. And,
no, I mean that's literally their market because the game's free.
Yeah, and that's just something that and so back to Roblox. That's something that it brings to my mind, because it's like you have young kids, and Fortnite is you got to buy skins and microtransactions. Roblox is you need to make games. You know, don't just play. You need to make things and monetize them at 11 years old, right? And it's not wrong for an 11-year-old to want to make a game or a movie or anything like that. But it sucks if you're 11 years old and you're, God forbid, crunching on some, you know, on some Roblox project or something like that. Like that's insufferably ridiculous, right? To think that that's even possible. But when you place, you know, when you place the signs out there that it's possible to make money and you can monetize things and stuff like that, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. And that sucks, you know, because you want to nurture those things. You don't want to beat them up as they're trying to find them. So I guess those are two separate things here. Two separate thoughts, right? You have Roblox on its own, and Roblox has mirrored images in a lot of different places, in a lot of different mediums, YouTube being one of them, sure. But again, with like the younger audiences of today, you know, how will they, in 20 years, how will they look back on these formidable years? And is it going to be the same way that we look back on, you know, Halo, KOTOR, blah, 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 Splinter Cell, our favorite games when we were young? Or is it going to be looking back on something that, you know, was just sort of a stupid fad that they did when they were kids? And how does that impact the culture and the art of gaming going forward? is that I don't think that's too fear-mongery to think. I'm not saying that games are going to suddenly disappear. And there's plenty of good games that come out. You know, it's not like games are over. Every year we get an incredible game. God of War. You know,
Ghost of Tsushima.
Witcher 3. You know, you could go on and on. Red Dead 2. You go on and on. But so much of that market is sucked up into sort of just these microtransaction churning live services that, you know, it's just the thing that makes me wonder. And there's a larger discussion there, but I don't want to get too far away from the Roblox stuff because People Make Games did a phenomenal job with the video. Go ahead.
I think there's enough good still happening in the in video games that 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, people are going to look back like, oh, that sucked, but at least XYZ was still going on. At least we still had our God of Wars, like all these monumental games that are changing how games are perceived and changing the way games are made. I think that'll be the bigger highlight of this decade of gaming.
So you think, okay, because when we define, oh man, that's a loaded question. Like, how would you define this decade, right? This decade is the decade of the live service, but live service means a couple different things. There's free to play, microtransactions, loot boxes, you know, whatever. What's the thing where you buy a subscription?
Battle Pass,
whatever.
Season Pass,
whatever. Which Season Pass has been around for, it's a little bit longer than, it's a little bit older than I think most people may realize, but all those things are relatively new to this generation, right? So maybe that's a better way to put it, is how will people that are 10 years old right now look back on that stuff, especially when, if you look prior to that, it wasn't around and we were still having amazing experiences and stuff like that, you know? And you have to ask, does the industry need this stuff to survive, or is it just nice to have? You know, I don't know. Now, again, this is connected to Roblox in that Roblox has skins that you can buy and all that stuff. The question of Roblox, and I think it's exploitation.
Oh, absolutely.
There were certain sites that reported on this, that alleged exploitation stuff, and I understand why they word things, because you're, you know, if you're calling a certain business practice a certain thing, then I think that's sort of a...
I don't know, I think it's fair to say that profiting off the labor of children is exploitative.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
There's been certain laws passed about it.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
I guess when you put it that way, maybe my hesitation seems a little silly. But anyway. Okay.
But again, this is something, and this is then the devil's advocate. Yeah, but the kids are opting into it. Yeah, but still.
But they're kids.
Yeah, they're kids.
You know? And it doesn't mean...
They're 11. They don't know that they're being exploited until they're exploited.
And it doesn't mean that the situation couldn't be better, right? Like, the situation, could it be better on YouTube? In a lot of ways, yes, it could, right? And there are a lot of things about YouTube that's just the nature of YouTube, right? Just like with Roblox, it's just the nature of Roblox. Getting your game noticed, that's just tough, right? Because there's such a huge player base. There's no way everyone's going to get noticed. And there's not a whole lot of ways around that, as opposed to, here's something that this company could change, and they could change that. And you can make that same exact argument about, you know, EA and Star Wars games. You know, if they wanted to, they could have put out more games these past 6 or 7 years, but they didn't. And that's a choice that they themselves made. And who knows why they decided that, but that's the way they decided, right? So these companies have the ability to make the industry better, more equitable, but they aren't. That's worth criticism, especially when it's exploitative. And I would agree that it's exploitative. I wish there was someone here who could maybe push back a bit. Yeah. I'm always, not because I disagree with myself or anything, but because I do think, like, you know, if you start a YouTube channel with the expectation to be a millionaire, that's unreasonable, right? But that doesn't mean YouTube couldn't be better. So there. Does that sum up everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Among Us. developers have spoken out about Fortnite's new Among Us mode. It's not called Among Us. The new mode is called Fortnite Imposters, and it was announced just recently. And devs at Sloth expressed some disappointment and frustration. Victoria Tran, Among Us's community director, said, quote, "It would have been really, really cool to collab. Just sad indie hours right now. Like, game mechanics, fine, though shouldn't be gate kept. But at the very least, even different themes or terminology makes things more interesting," end quote. Sloth co-founder Marcus Bromander said, and this is all on Twitter, quote, "We didn't patent the Among Us mechanics. I don't think that leads to a healthy game industry. Is it really that hard to put 10% more effort into putting your own spin on it, though?" End quote. Remember, as people pointed out, Among Us was not the first Among Us game, but it's definitely the one that
brought it into the limelight.
Just like Fortnite with Battle Royale, although Player Unknown Battlegrounds is the one that made it popular.
That brought it into the limelight,
and Among Us, and
Fortnite sprinted with it.
Yeah. So this is a similar issue that I have a lot of mixed feelings about.
So, yes.
Well, I didn't have a whole lot of mixed feelings about the Roblox thing. I just had trouble getting my thoughts out. This, I have a lot of mixed feelings about. Go ahead, sorry.
Yes, Among Us wasn't the first to do an Among Us type game or a werewolf type game, because that's an old card game.
Sure.
However, I think it's a fair point to say that this is a cash grab, even though it's a free game. This is a cash grab on Fortnite's part, because they're just jumping on the Among Us, werewolf, vampire, all that genre of game.
Sure.
Like they did with Battle Royale.
I don't want to be super cynical, but I don't want to be demeaning either. But Fortnite's market is 10 to 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's too broad. We'll say 10 to 20, right? I don't know. 10 to 25. And just like all these other live service games, they have a problem of retention and player base. It needs to be as big as possible, because the more people you throw into that barrel, the more people are going to buy your microtransactions. And when your whole business model is based on skins, then that's what matters most. So there's a cynical side of me that says, there's a game that's super popular and it's super easy to replicate. Why not we make our own mode of it? And maybe we get a chunk of that market, and all of a sudden we have X number of people buying microtransactions that weren't before. There's sort of a cutthroat cynicism in me that says that is totally what makes sense, and I feels like that's probably what happened here. But maybe this is something that Epic's been planning on for a long time. I don't know. At the same time, yes, patenting game mechanics is stupid.
Yes,
it's wrong. It's unethical, and it's immoral. It is ridiculous. And this is just like the whole, like the mining town thing, right? That people make games brought up, right? It's like, it's ridiculous that something that was outlawed in 1938 is somehow possible because of, we're in the internet age. So there's a bunch of stuff that was outlawed a billion years ago that's now legal again because it's on the internet. But it is ridiculous that companies think that that's okay in any way. Trademarking a mechanic or something like that. It makes me so infuriated. Because there's just no upside to that. There's just no upside to it. It's as absurd as somebody trying to copyright or patent a genre, right?
Yeah.
Like horror or action, right? It's completely fucking asinine, right? So there's that, which bothers the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad but at the same time, I have sympathy for these people, because this does feel like how do we get a larger audience of 10-year-olds into our game so that they can ask for a Fortnite V-Bucks card for their birthday and they can buy some useless, shitty skins that they're not going to care about in 5 years, right? And it's like, well, we'll make an imposters game because there's a cynicism in me that says that's how this came to be. I don't know if that's true though, so I can't say that it's true. But yeah.
Also, this kind of feels like a missed opportunity on the part of Fortnite.
How so?
Well, so Fortnite's not, a stranger to pulling from pop culture or
It's a commercial.
yeah, or using iconography or themes from movies, TV shows, and they've just straight up used other media.
Sure.
So it seems like doing a Fortnite Among Us event, like even it's a game mode, like doing a full collaboration with Innersloth.
Yeah.
That seems like it'd be the more profitable.
I can see what you mean there.
By and large, because it's not, it's a new game mode. It's like, no, come play Among Us in Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're saying with Imposters, but they're just painting it a different color and shipping it out.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And they said that they wish they could have collabed and stuff like that, yeah.
And then, you can use the Among Us skins in Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like, it makes more sense to do it this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it just seems like a failed business plan. Not failed, because they're going to make billions off of this. But it seems like less profitable. But at the same time, it seems a bit... I'm trying to think of the right word. Not sinister, but like they knew that they could bring in the Among Us team.
If that's the case, if it is
malicious,
they made a conscious decision we can do this collab or we can do it on our own, and doing it on our own is going to make more money. I would call that sinister. Sure,
Yeah.
why not? Fuck the games industry. It's sinister. All right? The games industry doesn't deserve any inch, unless you're a developer somewhere. If you're a high-level
unless you're an
executive-
11-year-old developer on Roblox.
Yeah, unless you're an 11-year-old developer on Roblox, everybody else goes straight to hell. Freaking, Bobby Kotick. Yeah, I could name names all night long. But no, I would definitely call that sinister. Yeah, sure. I would not, with the stories that we've heard about the different business practices and stuff like that, I would not put it past them.
And
so I guess
especially with them puppeteering the whole
the free Fortnite thing.
Yeah.
Which is disgusting.
It doesn't,
and calling it Operation Liberty or whatever the hell it was called.
It doesn't paint it in a good light that they wouldn't do something malicious like this.
No, and I guess that's a good point. Is
they're starting a track record of
being skeevy
Yeah.
in the past. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
So
I would not put it past them either.
to consciously decide, no, fuck Innersloth, we're gonna do it without them.
Sure. Yeah.
Even though that seems like it'd be the better option to do that with them, because then you get their branding and you get the people that play Among Us to come into Fortnite. Like it seems like the better throughway.
I could see the argument there. One thing I want to harp on for a second,
Go ahead.
and this is going back to what I talked about in the previous segment, is we have to remember that all this is because kids between the ages of 8 and 15, I'm going to say that's the peak, right? That's where they get the most users. 8 and 18 there,
Okay.
right? All this is happening because those people are buying microtransactions, right? And battle passes, right? Which, when you look at the substance of those things, there's cheap as chips and just as bad for you, right? A saying from Richard Smith, who I think is a British comedian. But anyway, so it's like all this is happening based on an economy that's sprung up in the past 10 years. A games industry practice on economy, bad word. A games industry practice, right, of microtransactions, bullshit like that, that sprung up in the 10 years, right? And so you have an entire generation that this is what they think, this is what they know the games industry as, right? As opposed to what we grew up with it as. So when we understand it from that context, to me, it makes things even more silly. Because it's not even that Fortnite is good based on its own merits. It's just Fortnite is good because it has a gigantic player base. Right?
Yeah.
So it might as well be Facebook, which just has a bunch of people. Like that's why it's successful. Whatever. Now I'm just rambling. Go ahead. Were you gonna say one more thing?
No.
Okay. An update on Aeon Must Die. So there is a lot to this story.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole lot of backstory, so I'm going to take us through the background, and then I'll bring us to the update. In June 2020, the trailer for Aeon Must Die was dropped during a state of play. Around the same time, former developers of Limestone Games, which is the developer of Aeon Must Die, posted a slightly different trailer along with a Dropbox link leading to documents that leveled serious allegations toward Limestone. Former developers said that the working conditions were unbearable, that there was a lot of crunch and abuse, that the company IP was covertly stolen from the company's founder, and that people who worked on the trailer had not been paid. Focus Home Interactive, the publisher at the time, or the publisher at the time, said they would look into the serious allegations. There's a lot of other stuff I didn't get into there. That's sort of a brief overview of the main points. This week, Focus Home Interactive released, I think it's just the same trailer. I'm not sure if it's different at all. The same trailer for Aeon Must Die on their YouTube channel and announced the game would be released by the end of 2021. Then the team at Mishura Games, which was made from those who left Limestone, posted a statement on Twitter saying, quote, "We, the former developers of Aeon Must Die, are confused and baffled by the announcement of Aeon Must Die. No legal matters pertaining to the situation were solved, and even more arose in the aftermath. The IP issues are not solved. The trademark for the product does not exist. No publisher investigation was concluded. Work for the trailer remains unpaid. Most of the animations in the game remain unpaid. Multiple legal attempts at real compromise have yielded nothing for it the last year." End quote. In a statement to gamesindustry.biz, Focus Home said it did carry out a social/legal audit, which did not confirm any of the allegations leveled against Limestone Games. So we have Limestone saying, hey, or we have Mishura Games, formerly Limestone developers, saying, hey, you're putting out this game. This is ridiculous. We haven't gotten anywhere in our legal discussion. Focus Home Interactive says, no, we did everything that we said we were going to do, and we concluded that there was no problem here for us. Then Mishura Games, and speaking to gamesindustry.biz, said, quote, I'm going to read
I like
looking at my notes here.
The cha-cha.
Okay, so this is a quote straight from a gamesindustry.biz article. Quote, gamesindustry.biz reached out to Mishura Games, which maintains its claim that the matter remains unresolved. In a document the studio shared with us, it details ongoing efforts to reach an agreement with both Focus and Limestone, but claims not to have heard from the publisher since August 2020 or from its former employers since around May last year. Okay, so it's a whole lot of mess, and I screwed up the notes there, but basically it's a whole lot of back and forth, a whole lot of mess. I don't have a whole lot to say about this because it's just, if you go diving into the Dropbox stuff, it's overwhelming how much stuff is there. I think there's even like audio, audio files and stuff. But I don't know if this is indicative of something in the games industry specifically, or if this is just something that happens when you're selling a product and you've got like a third party that you're attached to and agreements break down and stuff like that. Crunch, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's games industry.
That's
time.
systemic in the games industry, yeah.
But I assume and I'm not trying to demean this, but it's just I'm assuming this stuff like this goes down in the music industry, with films between, producers, directors, and studios. Films are bad because the studio says it wants this and the director does this, and then all of a sudden you get the snowman or something like that. So I don't have much else to say about this, but I thought it was important to update it just because the story seemed to have gone away, but currently it's still, but apparently it's still going.
I think this is less to do with the games industry and more to do with, what's her name?
Focus Home Interactive.
Focus Home Interactive and Limestone and Mishura. I think it's more of an internal debacle between the three of them rather than something that's more related to the games industry. Otherwise, when this came out, just like with everything, once it starts to, with like Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft,
Sure.
once information like that starts to get out, more information similar to that starts to get out, and we really haven't seen anything. We've heard complaints about being not being paid or payments being delayed for work done on games, but it's always seemed to have been because the game or the company was struggling rather than internal affairs like this
That's a
one.
good point. That does make this somewhat unique.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't hear about IPs being covertly stolen
Yeah.
all the time. And Focus Home Interactive is not, they're not, Ubisoft or EA, but they're also not a nobody.
Yeah.
Like that's a publisher that does a lot of different stuff. So it is interesting. Yeah. So, and I guess the other interesting thing is just how adamant Assura Games is about this. But again, it's a legal battle. So like, I don't want to dig in. It could take us, if we wanted to do an entire podcast about the entire document and stuff like that, we could do that by diving into it. But I
think a third party should look into the situation between Focus House and Mishura.
Focus Home Interactive.
Focus Home and Mishura and Limestone, and seeing if what Focus Home says they did was actually done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and Focus Home says we did that, and Mishura Games says no, we didn't. So
yeah,
and I tend to believe developers, but I don't want to. I just said F the industry, so I'm trying to keep my bias checked here for a second.
I mean, they said, well, we'll look into it, and internal investigations typically pan out for the people doing the investigation, because they'll just bury the lead,
and people aren't leaving jobs for no reason.
Yeah,
especially in the games industry.
And if they're claiming we haven't been paid, then that's an issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, big time. Okay, are you ready for a tidbit? We don't have tidbits, but we'll play the sounder just because it's fun.
Don't need to play the sounder.
I'm gonna play the sounder.
Okay, fine.
A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the tidbits. Okay, Rich is not here, but I want to play the sounder anyway. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, where we post videos. Go check out the Returnal video. What is it called again? I love Returnal. Here's why I hate Returnal. I think that's what it's called. And we will see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.